Hey, is it too late to find out if some of the 1974 A's can play now?
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about your A's as long as they're in Oakland or wherever the hell they're going to be playing. Here, I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please, I'm imploring you to call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, although normally I am the host of the Locked On MLB podcast, and I still am. I'm doing Locked On A's and Locked On MLB each and every day during this season. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now, or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you're posting stuff regularly on our social media, do me an example and do me a favor. Maybe an example is a wrong word to say. And post a hashtag right there. Say Everyday A's. It keeps track of who is listening to us every single day. You know, believe it or not, it helps. It helps the blessed algorithm. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. All I got to say about this weekend is this. Well, I got a couple things to say. But the main thing I have to say is thank goodness for Shea Langoliers. Thank goodness for the game-winning home run on Friday, because wow, I after winning that series, I just could not bear to see them just immediately just drop the ball and lose and get swept. And so they won game one. They won game one of the series. And I started thinking, oh, all right, this is good. This is good. All you got to do is split the next two. And then, holy cow, or maybe holy Toledo is the appropriate thing to do if we're going to be talking about the A's and the late, great Bill King. The bats went dead. The bats went deader than dead. On Saturday, it was Bailey Ober, the legendary Bailey Ober. Bailey Ober's not a bad pitcher, but whoa, you don't see many complete games these days. And there he went. 4 hits, 2 runs, 10 strikeouts. 10. Went the distance. And I'm telling you something, I know this is not cool. We're not supposed to talk about complete games. We're supposed to say, hey, you faced the lineup twice, therefore you have to be put on ice, because that's what their numbers tell us. And then wonder why your bullpen is completely worn out by the time you get to August. But complete games have a purpose other than machismo. Complete games, especially when it's hot, and we're in California here, but I mean it's hot for here, and you have a pitcher who went 9, and and I don't know why more teams don't let a pitcher go 9, especially when by the end it was clear this A's team's not going on a big rampage. This team's not going to go on a big roll, so have him go 9. And give the bullpen a rest. They had a complete respite day on Saturday. And so you go into the final game, a rubber game of a series, and lest we forget, Minnesota is fighting for a playoff spot right now. So they've got to win series against the A's. They've got to go to series, which at least on paper, it looks like everything is A-okay. But the Twins don't have anything locked up. Right now, the Twins are the second wildcard team, but they're only 1 game ahead of, drumroll please, Boston. Boston's gone on a roll. Right now, they've knocked Kansas City out of the wild card position. And guess who's thundering up the steps right now? Who's on a 5-game winning streak and won 7 of their last 10? That's right, Houston. So for a team like Minnesota, who needs to win the games they're supposed to win, to go into a rubber match with a completely rested and ready bullpen is a smart thing to do. If you can pull it off, I don't know, they managed to pull it off. And did they need the complete bullpen? Of course not. Of course not, because Pablo Lopez, pitched a damn masterpiece. He was throwing a perfect game until Butler broke it up in the 7th inning. He struck out 14 batters through 8 innings. Now, again, I don't 100% know why don't let him finish up the game. God forbid he throws a complete game. But Jax came in, got 2 strikeouts, and the final line on Lopez: 8 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 14 strikeouts, which goes to a big problem for the A's. They're not putting the ball in play. And again, I know there's a sabermetric argument that you're better striking out or something like that. I'll never understand that argument because a ball in play could create chaos. Someone could make an error. It could bloop. It could fit in the exact wrong place for the fielders. But they struck out 10 times yesterday, 24 strikeouts in 2 days. And wait, let me check. Actually, I don't have this number in front of me because I'm too busy fuming. But how many times did they strike out on the one good game, the come from behind 6-5 win on Friday? And thank heaven for they struck out 8 times. That's a lot of strikeouts. That's a lot of strikeouts. Did I mention that's a lot of strikeouts? I'll tell you the sad thing about today is there were some good parts. It's tough to say there are good parts of a game where the pitcher was throwing a perfect game deep into it. But do you know what? Going into the 7th inning, the score was 1-0. And the A's defense was really good. And do you know what? Hogan Harris, who has found a spot in the rotation, he pitched pretty well. 6 innings, 3 runs. And he was really big-time helped by the defense, especially Miguel Andujar, who in the 1st inning stole a home run, leaped over the fence, leapt over the fence, did one of them over the fence, and threw it to third where he got the runner. And they worked out of it. They got a couple of the really good, solid defensive plays. And the pitching wasn't bad. It's just Lopez. Ober and Lopez, the law firm of Ober and Lopez, which gave the bullpen save for 1 inning the Saturday and Sunday off. Tip your hat to the Twins, but it's frustrating, especially when you win game 1 of a series. You have a chance to win it. Who's in our comments? Steve's in there. Let's see what Steve has to say. Steve said, so frustrated. I had 2 tickets for today's game. I was going to be sitting right by the A's bullpen. Something came up and I wasn't able to make it. Although the A's lost, it's just being at the Coliseum. Yeah, Steve, I get it. And do you know what? We're going to be hearing a lot of that next year when a lot of us are going to be wishing we could go to a game at the Coliseum. And there was something else sad about today, beyond the fact that the A's lost and blah, 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 blah. And did I mention blah, blah, blah? There was something sad about a moment of celebration. And I don't want that to be lost on us because, quite frankly, it's one of the reasons why what's happening to this team and to this fan base and by the awful Fishers. Remember that? People who say I'm one of the Fishers lackeys, one of the horrific, grotesque Fishers. Quite frankly, it's worth bringing up. Hey, who was that? Who was it that just it was there was who just made the comment? It was Steve. Steve wanted to go to the game. And did you get tickets? Yeah, he got 2 tickets. And so, hey, it's too bad you couldn't make it because it's always great to get tickets and go to the ball game. But do you know what? No matter what your situation is, whether you're Steve or somebody else, let me just tell you something. I know we're all big sports fans, and this is the best time to go to sports events and go. It's the summertime, go outside. The days are longer, and sports are something we all love to do. And FanDuel, that's what I use to go to sporting events whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. I'm sorry. Oh, my dear Lord. I'll tell you why I'm laughing in a little bit. FanDuel is going to be going whenever I want. I have to open the app, bet Dream up bets anytime in the mood. Should never do these shows live. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus. That's right. There's something for everybody every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make the most of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I will explain while I'm laughing. I'm clearly not laughing at FanDuel. But let me just tell you, if you love FanDuel, and I know I do, I think you'll also love Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more than or less than a 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get the daily action with your friends and family and become part of the Prize Picks community. Now, finals are over. Hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is still heating up with stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves alongside greats like Breanna Stewart. You can win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. And Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's Prize Picks. You know what it is? It's really that easy. Hey, where is your hub for all of your sports news? Where do you go to get the best takes and the best news? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories with all the best takes. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Part of the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. Okay, I'm getting myself tripped up a little bit here. I'll tell you why I was laughing. I probably shouldn't admit this. I was trying to weave the last comment about having tickets into our first sponsor. And I started doing the FanDuel read, and I realized, no, Sully, FanDuel is not the ticket one. That's Game Time. And I realized that as I was trying to be clever, weaving it in, going like, that's a different one, Sully. You're doing the wrong thing. Oh, it's hot. We're all a little hot right now. The A's had a reunion. The A's had a reunion of the 1974 team. Raleigh Fingers gave a speech. A lot of the big players, the players who are still living, were there. I know a lot of big names from that team. Vida Blue is no longer with us. I know Sal Bando is no longer with us. Catfish Hunter is no longer with us. A lot of big names from that team are gone. Raleigh Fingers, Hall of Famer and the World Series MVP of the 1974 series, was there. On the mound where he noted was where he made the final out. He recorded the final out. And two things came to mind while watching it. First of all, could they still play? Could we sign Gene Tennis? Could we sign anyone? Could we sign Dick Green? Whoever else was there? Could we see if they're still there, if they can still hit? Because honestly, how could that group of gentlemen wearing the green jersey do worse offensively than the A's the last couple of days? Honestly, how could they be worse? I'm not saying they'd be better defensively. Joe Rudy, he was there, one of the best defensive left fielders of the 1970s, made a brilliant catch against the wall during the 1972 World Series of Game 2. I believe it was Dennis Menke who got the hit that he caught off the wall. But they can't make those plays. But wow, how could their bats be worse than what the A's are showing right now? Okay, but the other thing that made me sad was the A's have won championships in Oakland in 72, 73, 74, and 89. And so years that end in 2, 3, 4, and 9 are years where you could have a reunion of the team. And 5 years after that. So, 7, 8, 9, and well, I guess 4. So, I mean, I guess they can do one more reunion with the 89 team. But that's it, though. I mean, you can't, there's not going to be any more reunions. There's not going to be reunions next year. There's not going to be reunions of championship clubs and the titles the A's won. The A's were the first Bay Area team to win a championship. The A's won 4 before the Giants won theirs, and the last one they won was against the Giants. Iconic players, iconic moments, brilliant moments took place on that field. And now, when the A's are going to be sharing a stadium with the River Cats, which I still can't believe they're going to do, and either stay in Sacramento, which I still think they're going to do, or go to Las Vegas, those are going to be lost titles. What do I mean by lost titles? Well, how often are the A's going to celebrate in Oakland the 1910 and 11 A's championships and the 1913 A's championships from Philadelphia, or the 1929 and 1930 championships of the Philadelphia A's? How often are those celebrated in Philadelphia? They're gone. They're kind of like ghosts in limbo. Those are championships with great memories who will now fade away. They'll have no connection. What are they going to have? They're going to bring Joe Rudy and Raleigh Fingers back in Las Vegas? What the hell do those teams mean in Vegas any more than bringing back the descendants of 1929 mean to anyone in Oakland? They won the title for the people of Philadelphia before. They won the titles for the people of Oakland now. And then who will claim those titles? Who will have warm feelings of those titles? A's fans left here? Sure. But then they'll just become a vague memory of the titles of the past. You go to a Giants game, they are going to remind you every minute on the minute about 2010, 2012, and 2014. How often are they going to bring up 54 or 33 or 22 or 21? Yeah, I'm doing this from memory. But how often are those teams with those pennants that are kind of phantom pennants brought up? They'll bring up the Dodgers 55 because that was the only one. And maybe it's a sense of guilt that the Dodgers have of abandoning the people of Brooklyn. But now there's not even going to be a team here. You could have at a Raiders game or at a Warriors game if those teams were still in Oakland, a reunion, just like I'm sure they have reunions of some great Expos teams for Canadians games. But now they're lost. And the one name, Raleigh Fingers made sure to bring up Dick Green. Raleigh Fingers won the series MVP, but he said if they could have easily have gone to Dick Green, who didn't have the best hitting stats, to be sure. But his defense was so great in the 74 series that he would probably get MVP consideration. And he's not a superstar. He's not the person you think of with those great A's teams, but he contributed big time. Raleigh asked the sparse crowd at the stadium, how many of you actually remember seeing us? And a smattering of people applauded. They're all people older than me. I was only 2 years old. So and I'm not young. Notice the gray hair. So I was saddened by that. I was saddened that was the end and could be the final farewell of an A's championship team that will mean nothing to other fan bases, everything to an Oakland fan base. But it's been demonstrated that this fan base has been totally ignored by the current ownership. And they're going to start breaking the team up. When we come back, we're going to talk about the first trade that was made and remembering the final game of one of the great legends in the history of this team. Hey, let's hear from our good friends over at Supply House. Get supplies from the sites that's made for skilled trades. SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support, industry-leading service from the friendliest folk in the business, and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every trade gets access to the dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on the Amazon Fire and the free Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app. JD Davis has been traded to the New York Yankees, who need some depth on their corner infield spots, especially with the injury to Rizzo, and they could just use some depth anyway. So that's the first deal that's going to be made, and we know there's going to be a bunch more. And Duhar is going to be dealt, because they picked him up as a waiver, and he's showing that he can still produce at a major league level. So you might as well get something back from him. It breaks my heart a little bit to say they should trade Mason Miller, but the fact of the matter is, he's a bullpen closer on a team that's going to lose 90-something games, so that's a little anachronistic. And we know how fast bullpen arms can flame out. So even though it may be for Sacramento, you're better off seeing if you can get one of the 15 National League teams to fork over a prospect or two, especially when you have control and it could be a difference-making reliever. But this is kind of the way it is. This is mentality is one of the reasons why the casual A's fan doesn't exist. The diehard A's fan does. Because the minute a player gets remotely good, they're going to trade him away. You know it, I know it. And it breaks your heart in a way. As Carlos Vargas says, he's gone. That's right. That's right. And by the way, Steve makes another great point here. He says, so dependent on the long ball, sometimes small ball is the way to go. Absolutely. I've been saying that for a long time. The two things they have to avoid are the big inning, and they can't keep relying on, they have to avoid the big inning from the other team, and they can't rely on the long ball. If they rely on the long ball, you get a sense of today. Well, a lot of talk has been about Reggie Jackson, the impassioned speech he gave during the Willie Mays game in Birmingham. And I was thinking about his final game. That was actually his last year with the A's, was my first year living in the Bay Area, 1987. Jackson, everyone knew Jackson's career was done, and he decided to return to Oakland for one final year. And it was a strange year. He was not that productive. And it was kind of clear that the team was in the middle of a transition, and it was no longer a team where Reggie could carry. In fact, there were a lot of people who would have rather the A's have kept Dave Kingman, who was the DH the previous year, who didn't hit very well either, but at least he hit 30 homers. Jackson hit 15 home runs. He drove in 43 out of, and 15 of them were himself. His OPS was below 700. He was cooked. But he did get 2 hits in his final game, which was played in Chicago. Actually got on base 3 times in his final game and drove in a run on the final game of the season, which was that was fun. I actually remember that. But his last game he ever played in Oakland was on October 1st, 1987. The A's had been eliminated. It was a weird American League West that was kind of a bit of a mess. Produced the Minnesota Twins, who actually had a negative run differential. And of course, they went on to win the World Series. But Reggie's final game, it was a strange, if you look at the lineup, it is a weird mix of eras of A's baseball, because you have Canseco and McGuire there, and the likes of Walt Weiss and Tony Phillips and Stan Javier, who were all part of the 1989 World Series champion. And you had Storm Davis, Gene Nelson, Greg Catterate, Eckersley were all part of the World Series team of 88. You also had Dwayne Murphy on that team. And Dwayne Murphy was a remnant of Billy Ball. And Mike Davis got on base 5 times. 5 times Mike Davis got on base, including a pair of doubles. And Mike Davis hit the back-breaking home run in the '88 World Series the next year against the A's when he signed as a free agent with Los Angeles. The A's had taken the lead, and their leadoff hitter was Luis Polonia, who would later be included in the Rickey Henderson trade the next year in '89. But in the bottom of the 8th, against pitcher Ed Vandenberg, that's a name to remember for the Immaculate Grid, Reggie Jackson came up as a pinch hitter for Luis Polonia with 1 out and nobody on, and in front of 9,846 fans at the Oakland Coliseum. And in his final at-bat as a member of the A's in Oakland, Reggie singled to center field. Crowd went nuts. Stan Javier ran out to be his pinch runner, got a big standing ovation, and eventually the A's rallied and Javier came around to score. And with that, the last of the Finley era A's left. Dwayne Murphy would eventually go as the last of the Billy Ball era, although Mike Norris would make a cameo later. And a new A's era began, which was the 3 straight pennants. And a lot of the people on that team, including Eckersley, wound up being on that team in '89, who played with Reggie on that day. But listen to this cross-section of A's from, like, this is like taking a bunch of A's eras and hitting shuffle. Luis Polonia, Reggie Jackson, Stan Javier, Mike Gallego, Mark McGuire, Mike Davis, Dwayne Murphy, Jose Canseco, who homered off of Tom Candiotti, by the way, Tony Phillips, Mickey Tettleton, Mr. Fruit Loops, Walter Weiss, Storm Davis, Gene Nelson, Greg Cadaret, and Dennis Eckersley, all played on that one glorious day in October of 1987. We're not going to have many more days like that, so let's savor them while we're there. Hey, Carlos Vargas reminds us that this is the life of an A's fan. It is not for the weak of heart. But I'm here for you this whole season. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. From an undisclosed location somewhere in the San Francisco Bay Area, this has been Locked On A's. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.